Good afternoon, friends. Ash here, NP News. It's November 25th, 2025, 11/25/25. And I've been laying back, watching, observing, waiting, cataloging events as they happen, and watching different people some of whom I believe are telling me the truth, and most of whom I believe are lying to me. So I'm watching people for years and years that I know are lying to me, disinforming and misinforming the public, and with fear porn, and alleging that they know certain facts that they don't seem to know, alleging that they know how the story is going to play out, almost as if they're trying to force us to use our collective consciousness as human beings to create the exact thing that they're trying to create themselves, but they can't do it because it's not happening the way that they're saying it's happening, right? And every time they put out another false story that there's an EBS that's imminent, that all these people have already gone to Gitmo and been tried, that all these people are guilty, that they've already been, tried somewhere in secret that you've never seen, it just doesn't make any sense. So you're seeing a couple of things happen, right? All of a sudden they said there is peace in Ukraine, that Ukraine has agreed to the peace deal brokered by Trump, but Russia hasn't agreed to it. Ukraine has agreed to Donald Trump's peace plan to end the war with Russia, according to a U.S. official. Ukrainians have agreed to the peace deal. The official said there are some minor details to be sorted out, but they have agreed. The new agreement has been revised from 28 points to a 19-point peace plan that no longer includes amnesty guarantees for atrocities committed during the war. So any atrocities that happened, nobody's going to get tried for. It's less favorable to Trump. Kyiv has agreed to cap its army at 800,000 men. It's less favorable to Moscow, leaving it up to Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to decide the most sensitive terms. Well, I've heard other stories that that's not happening, that that's not going to be a peace. It's not going to work. Ukraine peace plan expected to be rejected by Russia, New York Post, likely extending war until after Christmas. If the war ends, both Putin and Zelensky are facing possible war crimes trials, if not at the least being maybe ousted from power at some point soon. It appears that whatever this emanation of, the third or fifth emanation of the Russian leader, is obviously not the real Putin, right? We know that the real Putin had a much more oval face. And if you remember all those years ago when you saw that video come out, I think it was the Kanye video with the cloning labs, and they had that big table, and all the stars, their clones, were laying naked on the table, like Trump, the Kardashians, Kanye, what's her name? That singer, a couple of different people, and a couple of others, right? That all, Beyonce, Jay-Z, and these guys, they all got clones made of themselves, which means they could be either in two places at once, or they could be in like one of those pocket universes or whatever, maybe, and not even here, and still have a person here doing their business. We don't know. But we've seen too many different versions of Trump walking around, and now, again, I'm seeing a Benjamin Fulford site alleging that the fake Trump will be removed, and so what, the real Trump is hiding somewhere else? I don't get it. Or has the real Trump been removed long ago? He died or was killed or whatever, we don't know. Who's actually been running the country this whole time? We don't even know. U.S. is now approving the sale of Patriot missile launchers to Ukraine, but I thought there was a peace deal. That was 4 days ago, though. 32 people have been arrested in New York City, and second largest gang takedown in Queens history. So that's a huge... They arrested this gang that appears to have a lot of really young people in it, like even people under 18, which is how a lot of the gangs operated way back in the old days, too. They had youth gangs where you would sort of learn the tricks of the trade, pickpocketing, muggings, and things like that you could do, It was easier to pick people's pocket if you're a young kid with small hands and fingers, right? Especially the old days where they had the trolleys People riding on the trolleys, children weren't noticed as much because they were short, right? They were small. There's a massive gang bust, and thank you to CJ Imlay and Prince of the Air Jr. Kenny, my friend Kenny, for their condolences about my dad's passing. I appreciate it. I will say that dealing with death is a very odious process, obviously. So congratulations to Ari at home and Dills. Congratulations to Ari and Dills. They were on their last stream. If you were watching, they were actually a Jeep pulled up and a man jumped out and said, "Hey, what's up? I'm the COO of Def Jam Records. What's up, bro? We like what you're doing. Hang on a second. I got the COO of Def Jam on my phone right here. He wants to talk to you." And Ari's like, "What? Who am I talking? You're the who? Oh, wow. You're the CEO." That's the main man, dude. You're talking right to the top. No filter, no in between, man. You're right into the source, plugged into the big time, right? So congrats to that. Just make sure you got a good contract, that you have a lawyer go over that contract very thoroughly. I like the fact that Def Jam was also saying, "Listen, we don't want you to stop doing what you're doing, right? We want to work with you, but we're not looking to stop that, right? We like what you're doing. In fact, we might sign some." That's the other thing, right? They might be looking at Ari like you're like an agent in a sense. You're like out there in the street finding talent, right? Working with talent funds. There's several people that I would have signed that were on Ari's streams. Probably about at least 5 or 10 people that I would have signed. Easy. Like Angry Bird and people like that, and there was a couple of guys, right? There were those guys that are rapping for like forever for 15 straight minutes. Yeah, you can do a whole album with that guy in one day. Just, okay, chill. Hold on. That's one song, 4 minutes. One song, 5 minutes. One song, 2 minutes. So congrats to Ari, man. You deserve it. Flesh out a nice contract that works for you, that gets you and Dills in there with some money. And listen, there's plenty of cake to go around, right? These guys up there at the top, they're smart. They know they have to adapt to the new way things are going to be. It's not going to be just these artists like it's been. No, you're going to get in the street. And you know what I was realizing? There's only a few cities where maybe Ari could do this show. You can't do it in some other places. There's just not enough raw talent. There's something in the bedrock of New York City. There's an energetic, there's a current, right? There's some kind of energy that's flowing through this place. Somebody was saying that if you look at the city, right, like especially Manhattan, the grid system, the way it's laid out, it's a circuit board. And that's true. And the people who live here power that board. That's really the whole country, but not so much, because once, if you look back in New York, I was just looking into this. In 1808, they began to say, hey, listen, more and more people are coming to the city. We need to have a grid system where it's not all farmland north of, 14th Street or whatever it is, right? We need to have a grid system set up, and this is how the land barons got so rich, because if I own 50 acres, let's say between 14th or 23rd Street and 42nd Street, that land is worth a whole lot more money. Why? Because now I've sectioned it into streets where each street has lots on it that I could sell for massive profit. I could sell whole big block-sized lots if you want to put up bigger buildings, right? And that's what happened. So people like Stuyvesant and others who owned a lot of land in New York became massively wealthy. Guatemala asked the FBI for help to recapture fugitive gang members. Malay's Argentine government privatization plan is moving forward. So it looks like Argentina is going to become the new Germany. Is that what you're doing? Well, you let enough Nazis move in down there after World War II, now we know. Notice that Trump never said, hey, let's go in and find those peeps. No, he never found them. There's whole villages with people that are twins and white people looking people. It's all crazy, right, what they did. I'm assuming Mengele was messing around with all kinds of people's genetics. Death is a really odious process in this country. There's no easy way to go through it, right? You got to get death certificates and wills, and then if someone doesn't have a will, don't die without some kind of will. That's all I could tell you. It's a real fuck story if you have assets. If you don't have anything, then you don't need a will, right? If you got your comic collection and a couple of other things, nobody really gives a crap, right? But if you have a couple of $1 million or something like that or less, or assets, and you just freaking die and you don't have any will, well then the state could get all your money. And if you have some people that you might want that money to go to, try to give it to them before you die is what I would do. Or have a will that explicitly says what to do with your assets, because if you don't, the state will take it all. And the state sometimes does. Millions of dollars every year is taken by each state that, somebody dies who has no living heirs, right? There's lots of people like that. All your family's died. Maybe you're the last person. You're not married. You don't have children. At least 33 Palestinians were killed, 88 injured in Israeli strikes on Gaza. So it's still striking on Gaza. And a woman came forward in the Israeli parliament, and on the record she accused Netanyahu of not only orchestrating October 7th, but also in creating and funding and entreating with Hamas. In the public record, she did that, which is a bold move. So I'm sorry, the last show was November the 20th, 2025. I said October the 20th. It was November. Interesting. My building had a message in the building in the lobby saying we're going to install temperature sensors in everybody's apartment to better help us heat the building, right? In other words, we can't heat the building properly. We haven't been able to for years. And now we want to invade your privacy even more by putting in another sensor thing in your house that's beaming information back to somewhere else. So, so far they haven't come to me because I think they know by now that I'm a type of person that doesn't allow and doesn't like to be bothered by sensical nonsense like this, which is, in other words, it's not mandated by the state that I need a temperature gauge in my apartment. If you can't heat the building properly, then give me some of my rent money back and quit your job and bring in some management company that can run the building properly, because I'm paying you rent, and in turn for paying that rent, I expect certain things, right? I expect heat, I expect hot and cold water, I expect somebody to take out my trash that I throw down the chute, I expect security, I expect maybe security or not, depending if you have a door person. I'm expecting heat, though, right? All the time. As long as it's below 55 degrees or less, I have heat in my apartment. My apartment should be 68 degrees or better if it's 55 or less out. If you can't do that, then leave and get someone in that can, because you're not heating the apartments properly. But I don't have to put a temperature monitor in my apartment so that you can figure out which apartments are getting heated properly or not. That's not my problem as the renter to have to deal with. I give you rent money so I don't have to deal with it. If I'm a homeowner, I have to worry about my own heat. Then I can control my own heating and my own, right? I can get a wood stove or get a big boiler in my basement and put the heat on at 80 all day if I want, if I don't mind paying for it. DOJ given 5 p.m. deadline to respond to Comey indictment error claims. So Comey got off, right? You saw Comey's indictment was thrown out, and so was Leticia James. But they had Leticia James dead to rights, but they made them, something went wrong, or they have a corrupt judge. I'm assuming that judge is corrupt. So now Comey's not going to get... It doesn't look like Comey's going to jail, right? It doesn't look like these people are getting arrested. All these people who keep saying, oh yeah, they're already in Gitmo. Well, why is the Clintons walking around free, going to the Hamptons every summer, still running the Clinton Foundation? What are you talking about, baby? You're lying to us. Judge orders Trump to end National Guard deployment in D.C., gives him time to appeal. So now it looks like D.C., that deployment's over. It now looks like Trump has turned around and he's not coming into New York, so I was wrong. It appeared that he was. He had said that he was about to send troops into New York soon, right? Some kind of... and there has been ICE already operating in some capacity in New York, but not on big levels. I don't see them out in Queens at the Boulevard of Sweethearts. You can wrap up a whole bunch of people if you just show up over there. Their shit's all out in the sidewalk. Selling crap everywhere. It's easy to find them. They're right there for the taking. Just like they're all there for the taking on Canal Street, but you don't want to take them. You're worried there's going to be violence. City Chief Financial Officer Mark Mason is to leave at bank after next year. Let's check the metals real quick, because you've been seeing that the crypto coins are getting slaughtered right now. Silver's just down 1 cent to 51.62. It paired all the way back. It was down, and it was up big the other day. It was up over 60, 70 cents, I think, at one point. Gold's at $41.61.90, up $8.10. Platinum's at $1,572 and up $8.70, and palladium's at $1,434.70, down $2.30. So palladium's made a nice run, and so has platinum. They've come up nicely. They're almost equal in terms of their price, but usually palladium in the past was worth a lot more. I remember seeing palladium run to 3,000, if you remember. Now it's pulled all the way back to 900. Probably going to run back to 3,000. That's a good alternative if you can't afford to get 4,000 for some gold, right? Grab a couple bars of palladium or something. Just grab anything. Silver, gold, any metals right now. I would grab something, whatever you can, and get out of those coins, because those aren't going to be the thing that we're going forward. You can't. They want to make them digital coins because then you could do unlimited, right? It's the same bullshit. It's just a different scam. Texas busts 31 illegal immigrant truckers in one day. Most of them had California CDLs. Well, that's why they're going into California, to get those commercial driver's licenses so you can drive a truck. Let me tell you something. You can't just jump in an 18-wheeler and drive it. Most people can't do that. You need to have practice. You got to turn completely differently, right? You can't make a U-turn in an 18-wheeler like in a car. It's not as mobile. You have to make sure you're doing the right thing, right? You have to make sure you know how to drive sometimes a manual truck that has 18 gears, and know the rules of the road, and be able to read all the signs and know what they mean, and read English and understand it. They had the big bust in Queens. New TSA policy charges passengers $18 that don't have acceptable IDs at checkpoints. So now you can get, no big deal. All right, so I don't have to have your stupid new ID, and I'll just keep my license, and I'll pay you $18 extra that I shouldn't have to pay, right? Since I have a valid ID. I mean, don't you know who I am anyway? Don't you have, facial recognition of every American in a database somewhere? So how come you don't know what I look like? How come you don't know it's me? Andy No reports first Antifa terrorism convictions in U.S. history. In Texas, 5 far-left extremists have admitted in federal court to being Antifa members in a North Texas Antifa cell that carried out an ambush terror attack at an ICE facility. So this is probably the first of many, but this should have happened long a time ago. Trump should have been doing this his first term, as far as I think. The other big thing is that, remember we were talking about Fuji's rapper Pras like 2 years ago in Jolo? When Jolo gave $100 million to Pras, remember? To give out to certain people, because he couldn't do it because he's Chinese, right? And foreign money is not allowed in the election. So hey, if I get this guy Pras to give him a bunch of cash through some LLC I create that leads back to me somehow, maybe nobody will notice, and then I could give all this stuff to Obama and get him reelected, right? Fuji's rapper Pras Mitchell was sentenced to 14 years in jail, dude. That's not a little bit. That's a major revelation. That's a lot of time. Fuji's rapper Azrael Pras Mitchell has been sentenced to 14 years in prison for illegally funneling millions of dollars in foreign cash to former President Barack Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. So really, Obama's whole presidency was fake, right? He was obviously Barry Soetoro, we know now. We know he didn't attend Columbia University. We know that he was probably a CIA agent, and so was his mother. We know that his father wasn't who they say he was. I don't think. He looks much more like another person that whose photo I forgot, whose name I forgot, who's I think from the Philippines or one of those other countries. Suharto or whatever. No, not Suharto. That's one of the leaders of one of those countries. I'll think of it. The Brooklyn-born Grammy winner who co-founded the hip-hop group with singers Lauryn Hill and Wyclef Jean stayed mum as U.S. District Court Colleen Collar Codley handed down the hefty sentence. So Pross is going away for 14 years for illegally funneling Chinese and other foreign assets and monies to Barack Obama's 2012 election campaign. Miss Palestine's Connect. I wrote, remember Pross from the Fugees and Jolo and the $100 million? Yeah, we came back to it. We were talking about that 2 years ago when the indictment came down. Remember that? All these things are coming to a close that we were talking about and reporting on as they were coming out years ago. Miss Palestine's connection to convicted terrorist leader revealed ahead of Miss Universe pageant. Now Swalwell's running for governor of California. Vows to be a protector and fighter. So he's going to be Newsom Part 2, right? He's Newsom version 2. He would be a horrible governor. And he's probably doing it to avoid, hopefully. And when are we going to see any kind of arrests? We're still not, right? So, I mean, if you're a Trump supporter still by this point, I don't know what you're thinking. A lot of these people are thinking, well, where's the arrest? Why aren't they letting Tina Peters out? They can't believe that Trump's not helping Tina Peters. Portland Antifa militant pleads guilty to arson attack on ICE facility, faces up to 20 years in jail. The defendant was captured on surveillance video igniting a flare and throwing it into a barricade consisting of objects and debris, which resulted in a large fire. CDC's website revision suggesting vaccines and autism linked drugs scrutiny. So they revised that. They're saying it doesn't now. What causes really autism? Because you're not seeing the same autism rates in places like France and Europe that don't have the same vaccine schedules that we have. I mean, and it's true. I mean, when I was a kid, you had to take measles, mumps, rubella, MMR, and a couple of shots. But now it's like these kids, by the time they're, I don't know, 5 or 6, probably have taken dozens of shots. It's just too much. And if there's mercury in all these things, I mean, mercury is not supposed to be in your body at all, right? There's chemicals in these vaccines that are not supposed to be in our bodies. Interior Department proposes offshore drilling near California and Florida. Right? You're not hearing anything about 0-point energy, no Tesla towers still, right? They're not happening. The Teleforce weapon, nothing, right? They already have the Teleforce weapon. It's the laser, right? They have the ships with the laser beam on it already, and they have planes that have it. That's the Teleforce weapon. That's Tesla. He created that in 1938-39. He had that technology then to give to England and the United States so that the Nazis would never be a problem. The Luftwaffe would have never been able to touch England. The Battle of Britain would have never happened. It would have happened, but it would have been brief. All those Nazi planes just would have got melted out of the sky when they were over the over the ocean or the water coming across, right? And then they'd say, shit, we can't get anywhere near England. They got this weapon we don't have. It's a laser beam that is on the coast of all over the coasts. And it's cheap to produce. And we don't know how to make it. But Tesla did. Why did the United States and Great Britain refuse Tesla's free offer, I believe, he just wanted the money to make it. He had a working model, a smaller working model, I believe, of the Teleforce that he was keeping at the hotel. That's probably why he was killed. Partly because somebody wanted to make sure that didn't come out because they needed World War II to happen so that they could insert the Nazis, so they could make the Fourth Reich in the United States, within the United States, and nobody would ever see them because they'd be hiding in plain sight. So they could make a sort of Hydra within the CIA, which is really what they did. And they took over the United States. So you're living in the Fourth Reich, basically, unfortunately. I know that upsets a lot of people, but that's really what happened if you look at Project Paperclip and what the results of that were. And it wasn't just us that took in the paperclip Nazis. It was Canada, it was Russia, it was Argentina, it was others. Maryland mom set for deportation, defended by Senator Van Hollen as convicted criminal from Vietnam. DHS individuals on social media questioned why Democrat Senator Van Hollen continues to defend criminal illegal aliens unlawfully residing in his district. Because that's what they're told to do. Right? That's what's going on here. Every time ICE comes, they're like, take off your mask. What do you care if they have a mask on? They're removing illegal people who are not supposed to be here. Why do you care if you could see their face or not? Can you see Hamas's fucking face? Why don't you go over there and tell them to take their mask off? Oh, because they'll shoot me. Right. XRP under $2 a coin. It's gone back over $2, I think. And Bitcoin was down as low as 83,400. And where do we see it just recently at 120 almost, right? So it's lost a third of its value already. DOJ arrests U.S. citizens and Chinese nationals for exporting AI tech to China. Well, people have been stealing U.S. tech for decades and sending it to China. It's because you're letting a lot of Chinese people come into this country. A lot of them are coming in illegally. They're human smuggled into the country. That's the other thing. What really happens to all these women, these young women from different countries that get smuggled through the country for the sex work and things? Eventually they disappear into some underground network where you don't know where they end up. And I don't think they ever are found again, some of them, right? Because some of them are being used for food. Some of them are being used for sex. Some of them are being used for adrenochrome production. And, you never see most of them again. Why? Because they're the nameless. They don't have families, some of them, right? They just are people who are kidnapped children. I mean, there's a whole network in China of kidnappers that go through the different small cities and towns and they kidnap children. They have videos of it. They abduct children all the time, every day. And they're sold into a network, right, that extends throughout the world, that nobody can see. Joy Behar just put ABC on the brink of another huge Trump lawsuit. These people keep saying all these incredibly nasty stuff about certain people, and it can be libelous after a while if you say something that's not provably false and you impugn my character on a live network like that. I can sue you. I mean, he's already made millions upon millions of dollars suing people. Security footage reveals that the suspected J6 pipe bomber visited a third building before the Capitol riot. The subcommittee investigating January 6 has taken a particular interest in the two pipe bombs that were discovered that day outside the national headquarters of both major political parties. Oh, you mean the one with an egg timer, an hour egg timer on it? Right? Which means that I have to be there an hour before to set it, but I just left the thing there when it's not ticking. That doesn't make any sense, right? You don't leave a bomb somewhere not ticking, usually, right? And then leave it in an obvious place where it's going to be found, and then never go back and set that hour timer. When you could have had a digital timer and set it whenever you wanted, right? Excuse me. And I'm no expert on that, so don't come to my house, please. I'm not. Just saying it sounds a little suspicious, right? There's a bomb or a pipe bomb laying there with an egg timer. And plus, it wasn't a large bomb. It wasn't even a stick of dynamite. It looked like to me to be a pipe bomb, which can blow up and do damage, but it couldn't have caved in the cement outside and hurt anybody inside. It would have maybe hurt somebody who was passing by that garbage can where it was wedged against. In other words, I think it was just a plant, and it wasn't. It was with an egg timer that wasn't set to go off, right? Which doesn't make any sense. Justice Department investigating handling of federal mortgage fraud cases on Schiff and James. Report the Schiff case is being handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Greenbelt, Maryland. Well, Leticia James' case just got dismissed by, I'm assuming, a corrupt judge. Jim Jordan says Biden administration collected his phone records for a 2-year period. The toll records did not include the contents of Jordan's phone calls or messages, but did include details about inbound and outbound calls, texts, direct connect communications, and voicemail messages. Just the news. Wow. So they were spying on Jordan for 2 straight years. Jobs Americans won't do, the lie that broke a nation, and the economic and social devastation it hit. Yeah, I don't think, you know, personally, I think that that's bullshit too. Okay, maybe some Americans don't want to pick certain crops, but that's not true that every American wouldn't. And two, how about working in an auto plant? That's a good job, right? If some South Korean company comes to my town and says, hey, we want to build our cars in your town and we want to employ your people, great. And then I find out that your plant is also filled with South Koreans that, well, it shouldn't be filled with South Korean workers. It should be filled with our workers. And just a skeleton crew of South Korean people to help us, teach us how to make your car, right, the proper way. But we don't have, you need all your workers. No. Our workers should be the ones on the line, the majority, right? We're giving you the tax break by letting you build it in our town and giving you certain tax breaks to build your car here. You have to employ American citizens for the majority of those jobs. Well, it was found that certain companies aren't doing that. You're abusing our kindness. You should be immediately thrown out of the country, and an extra tariff should be put on your product for that as a punishment. Or maybe we just don't sell your car here anymore. How about that? We don't need your South Korean car. We got 50 different car brands here that we already can buy. Why do we need you? Who's pulling the strings behind Dems' contemptible ad calling for military to disobey Trump's orders? So this was what Benjamin Fulford's site was saying, that they crossed the line, that Trump threatened certain Congress people who were saying, well, if you're the military and the president gives you an illegal order, you don't have to obey it. Well, who is some grunt in the military chain of command? You think he's really going to say, some sergeant, some captain somewhere or whatever is going to say, hey, I don't think this order is okay. I don't want to do it. It's against my belief. Well, if you're in a wartime situation and you disobey a direct order from your superior, you could be shot and or arrested and removed, right, for failure to follow orders, right? You disobeyed a direct order from your superior officer. You're in deep trouble in the military. You can be demoted in rank. You could be arrested. You could be shot in a wartime situation. You could be considered a traitor and hung, depending on the situation, right? I think the dosage, by the way, I was talking about the baking soda, right? Don't be very careful. Baking soda is a very powerful thing. I think the man took 2 teaspoons of baking soda and 1 tablespoon of molasses and 1 cup of water, I guess warm, not cold. You don't want to drink cold water because then that makes the fat in your stomach sort of become, right, hard, and you don't want that. You ever see these guys that got that big belly, that hard fat belly? You don't want that. That's bad. So here's Landman, Season 1, Episode 5, where the cartel's moving in on his territory, saying, you owe me a lot of money. We tried to land this plane on your road, and one of your trucks came by and smashed into my plane. Well, yeah, you're not supposed to be landing a plane full of cocaine on my road. This sometimes happens in oil areas and, very, very remote oil leases that are, there's nobody really around for miles and miles on end. Parts of Texas you can drive to, it's like the big empty. There's nobody really out there. Not much going on, right? Not too many people live out there. Here's another episode. Tommy explains why even wind turbines depend on the oil industry. I thought this was a really good clip that we could watch real quick. We won't get any copyright, I don't think. It's for educational purposes about wind turbines. So let me just set up this scene real quick. It's Tommy talking to, I believe, a lawyer or somebody who they're going out, and she's checking, I guess, out the operation, and they're talking about wind turbines, how wind turbines depend on the oil industry, right? Because the turbine itself has to have oil to lubricate it. It needs right, and things like that to lubricate the parts. So, and then they pump that, and then the power is sent to a certain, right, through the ground. But still, it needs oil. Without oil, you can't lubricate all the moving parts of that device, and it doesn't work, right? So in a sense, you do need oil still, so it's not clean energy. So here's that scene from the show Landman. Got a little too involved, but that's a great clip to watch because it shows you the lie of that, these kinds of things are clean energy, right? It's the same thing as like in the city where they say, hey, we want to have a green city, but every other block or two we're going to allow somebody with a food cart to set up who's burning a generator that's runs on gasoline that's spewing out pollution on every other block, right? We're going to allow some guy who's frying food up every other block to be in a food cart, stinking up the whole neighborhood and polluting. But hey, it's a green city, right? Because all the buildings conform now to solar. And like he says, you don't have the transmission wires to run it to all the cities anyway. It would take you 30 years to build it. So the whole solar thing is a scam. The whole climate change thing is a scam. They even told you it was. Like I told you, I grew up right by the Hudson River all my life. I've been watching the Hudson River. It's only in parts 30 or 40 feet above sea level in some parts of lower Manhattan. So if there was sea rise every year, if the seas were rising, as they say, every year, then there would be parts of Wall Street would have been underwater by now for years, and they would have had to declare emergencies to move all the stock exchange. They haven't done that. They are building down in Battery Park to try to do what the Dutch have done. You can put these levees, sort of these metal things under the water that can stop the waves from pushing in. You can push up these sort of metal, I don't know what they're, just these like thin metal things that they put in the bottom of the ocean and the water, so that when the waves start to push in, they can put those metal filters up into the air. They tilt up a little bit to deflect that water's power, right? And that's how the Dutch have reclaimed a lot of land that was underwater before, right? Blue states Somalis allegedly sent welfare money to Al-Qaeda ally planning another 9/11. So Trump just did something where he does things like that where you say, okay, that sounds good, right? He's getting those Somalis maybe out of Minnesota that were there. People who came in, the people that came in 2012 and before that Obama let in, when Somalia was falling. But the people he let in were like Ilhan Omar and Ilhan Omar's dad, who were the architects of destroying that country. Him and others like him. Clinton Treasury Secretary Larry Summers cozied up to Epstein. Yeah, now you're understanding how tied in Epstein was to Clinton's orbit. He had the Treasury Secretary under Clinton was his friend. And that's how he got close to Clinton. That was his in. Plus, Ghislaine knew Clinton. Ghislaine knew everybody. Ghislaine's dad did. You saw this. Ghislaine's dad was meeting with Trump in 1989, in part to pick some of the people that were going to be in the next presidential offices of a cabinet of the next president, which was going to be Bush Sr., right? They were picking who's going to be the next kingmaker, who's going to be the next one. Were they trying to groom Trump to maybe run? Maybe for a long time they were trying to, but they realized he wasn't going to be able to make it. Did Zohran Mamdani just admit his campaign broke federal law? They did break federal law by accepting illegal donations from foreigners, just like Prosh just got thrown in jail for 14 years for taking Chinese money and funneling it to somebody. Well, this guy just did the same thing with his campaign. They took foreign money from, I believe, multiple different countries, not just one. Turkey and other countries. I believe from Qatar, from the country where his family's from, Uganda. So there's other people overseas that are, that's why I don't understand how we're just waltzing through this thing that Mamdani won when only 1 million people voted for the guy in a city where there's over 8 million people. And nobody in the press seems to be asking the logical question, which is, where did all the people go? Why is it that 2 million people voted for in the last mayoral election? That's only a 25% of the city's population. Where did all the other people's votes? Something is going on in New York that nobody's asking the questions about, except me and a few other people that I could see. How did Mamdani become the mayor with only a million votes in a city that has 8 million people? Does anyone have that answer? Mexico's president rules out U.S. cross-border strikes on drug cartels. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has dismissed the suggestion the U.S. could strike within Mexican territory amid heightened border sensitivities. Well, they could strike. They might not need your, if you're pushing drugs into and illegal aliens and sex workers into our country for decades, why we should be able to strike in your country? That's an act of war, in my opinion. Comer puts Bill and Hillary on notice, arrests on the table over Epstein testimony. So if they can't just say we're not coming in. Apparently, if they don't come in, he's going to send the warrant out for them. All right, good luck with that. We'll see. Japan's cabinet approves a stimulus package that's worth as much as $270 billion. Trump administration sues to block California tuition breaks for migrants. Thank you, PDE SARP, for your condolences. Also for my dad, I appreciate it. It's really upsetting when, you don't get all the information that you should get because you're dealing with other people that are dealing with the situation. So, you're finding out upsetting things about what happened in the hospital. Like I said, don't let them intubate you unless you have no choice. Intubation is the end story, right? They want to intubate you. And they want to give you fentanyl real bad, right? What does fentanyl do? Well, it suppresses your breathing. So be very careful. You don't have to get fentanyl. You can get Demerol. You can get morphine. There's other painkillers that are not as strong. Putting people on fentanyl first is a big, big mistake. I don't know why hospitals do that, but, I don't have the time or the money to go over. There's usually reports are made when someone dies in the hospital. Do I know any of this stuff? No, but, you'd have to contact certain medical lawyers with medical people on staff, and it costs a lot of money to go look into this stuff. DNC takes out a $15 million loan. Quote, I made a bet that investing early would build power, rack up wins, and rally supporters back to the table, DNC Chair Ken Martin said. What is he taking a loan out for? You telling me the DNC doesn't have $15 million from some Democrat to throw somewhere who doesn't have excess cash like Schumer or someone in his coffers? Where does all this political cash go that's sitting in people's coffers, right? I mean, look how much money Mamdani made. He had over $14 million, and now he's begging for $5 million more so he can have his transition team. It takes you $20 million to... that means you got $20 million, man. Where's all that money? I didn't see that many ads that you did on TV, so you have money left over, right? How much money do you have? Where did it come from? So Trump and Mamdani met in the Oval Office. They didn't seem to not get along, right? Trump even said, I can work with this guy. And then what does Mamdani do? He goes back to New York and he says, yeah, but I still think he's a fascist. All right, yeah. So it's like this fake adversarial bullshit. But what's really going to happen? We don't know. NASA's long-awaited images of the mysterious object zipping through our solar system. They're saying it confirms it's a comet and not a spacecraft. Okay, well, it's glowing on the inside. I don't remember comets doing that, where it's like green on the inside and glowing and stuff. And then it's got purple on the next ring. All right, I hope it is a comet. Or if it's aliens, I hope it's good aliens and they just tell you, hey, sorry you had to wait so long for this shit to end, but this is a nightmare for you, I know, but we're here to help you get rid of these people once and for all. You can't even see them there, and none of the density they've been taking you guys for a ride for the past, 25,000 years or whatever it's been. That's why our whole history is just war and conquest and death and war and conquest and death and war and conquest and death, right? Over and over and over again. The Romans and the Greeks and the Peloponnesians, the Persians, what do all these cultures have in common? They all were warlike. They fought and took over amounts of land from other people that they murdered and killed, right? Look in the Bible. There were all kinds of people killing each other back then too, right? Burning cities to the ground, putting all people's heirs to the sword, right? Killing babies and people in God's name sometimes, right? In the name of some deity that they worshipped at the time. Yeah, I'm going to kill every last one of you and take everything you got, and then these people come and take and kill me and take everything I got, and then those people rule for a while, and then some other group of people come along and take everything they got, and on and on and on. It's a loose cycle that goes on for tens of thousands of years. Of different people killing each other and wiping each other out and killing each other and wiping people out. And then I prosper for a while, and then I get sloppy and I get too soft and fat and rich, and then somebody who's hungrier comes and takes what I got. And then those people get fat and hungry, fat and lazy, and then some other people come and take what they got. Right? And then there were some groups that didn't have to live that way. They found another way, the indigenous, to live, but the indigenous still fought each other sometimes. Certain American Indian tribes were killing and fighting other tribes, right? Not all, but some were. The Apache, and some other groups were definitely warlike, more warlike than, say, the Sioux were, right? And other groups like that. The Cree and other groups were less warlike, but they would still fight if they were messed with. So there wasn't complete peace, but a lot of tribes learned to live with each other also, right? In places like Canada and the United States went before any settlers came here and tried to divide up the land and say they owned it. ISIS-linked militants slaughter 89 people, including women, in Christian-run hospitals. So I don't know what's going on. Some people are saying that it's Israel or us that is funding this to try to wipe out Christians in certain countries. They're trying to make it into like an ISIS stronghold. And these are also countries that have like a lot of like assets that we want, like coltan and oil and diamonds, gold, silver, copper, etc., right? Natural resources, salt. Andrew ignores invitation to speak to U.S. Congress about his links to billionaire pedophile. He doesn't want to come on American soil. He could be arrested now because he's not a royal. He's just Mountbatten, right? He's really Saxburg-Gotha, right? These people are Germans, right? And then after World War I, they wanted to change their name because they didn't want the taint of Germany on them anymore. It was not too popular to be German after the end of World War I, when the Germans thought they could take over the world with the Axis powers, right? They tried to do it twice. Remember that. It really wasn't twice. There was 2 world wars because they needed those wars. And they wanted to have a 3rd world war. The Masons. Andrew ignores invitation to speak. He's not coming. Trump pledges to fight for Ukraine. I don't know what this guy's doing. I mean, he's got to have been replaced. I mean, if you're seeing this shorter Trump with the golden hair still, it doesn't... I mean, are people that colorblind that you can't see the guy's hair's different colors? From time to time? And then one of them is taller than the other? Obama schemes with rising trailblazers in stunning plot to retake the White House. Another catastrophic fire cripples U.S. car production and could crush America's favorite truck. So there was a big fire at one of the plants. Chicago judge named and shamed after she ignored prosecutors' pleas to jail serial criminal before he boarded train and set woman on fire. So the guy that set that woman on fire on the train has been arrested, I think, 70-something times. 70-something times. There used to be something where if you got arrested a bunch of times, you just get more longer sentences, and then you'd be, until eventually you're known as a recidivist offender and you keep reoffending, and they just put you away for a long time. Excuse me. Serbian leader denies involvement in Sarajevo human safari sniper trips. As macabre picture emerges showing skull in a helmet on car used by militia boss. My guess is that this is real. It's sort of like Hostel. where, in certain countries, like, people were doing that, where it's like, yeah, I have a torture dungeon underground where nobody knows where it is, and it's soundproofed out, and I got people down there, and for a price, you can come in here and, kind of do whatever you want, right? Trump's Ukraine deal stuns Europe as his unprecedented NATO pledges forces Kyiv into an impossible choice. It's sort of like the alleged hunts that went on in the Black Forest with the Rothschilds hunting children, and that they have like trophy walls with as they cut off the children's genitalia that they hunt down, right? Those were alleged to have existed. So, do I think those happened? Those things? Yeah, unfortunately, I do. These are some very, very sick people, and depending on your usefulness to them, they will treat you in different ways, right? If you're of use to them, or you are somebody's thing that's being controlled, then that might keep you alive, right? And or if you're not of use to them in that way, then you might be of use to them in a sexual manner in other ways, right? MK Ultra, etc., or just to be used for like a hunting thing like that, right? Or food. That's the sad truth about this situation that I think we find ourselves in. And we're in a matrix that I guess is generated by AI and our own consciousness somehow. Right? Which means that, I don't know what that means. That's above the pay grade of most people. Right? How do you try to logically think about getting out of a box like that when you've never seen a box like that before? A box within a box with maybe within a box. It could be a triple prison. Because you're in an inverted matrix within a simulation within something, right? We'll figure it out one day. We need to get on a different wavelength, right? That's the thing. We have to raise vibration, because the higher our collective vibration becomes, the more that matrix can't work. Trump's Ukraine deal stuns Europe as his unprecedented NATO pledge forces Kyiv into an impossible choice. I don't know if we're in some kind of a breaking point. Argentina seeks to recover $500 million by seizing the ex-president's assets. Christina Kirchner. Seizing properties. It's a lot of money. You took somebody's cash. 2 Capitol police officers treated for injuries after fire breaks out at trolley under Rayburn office building. So there was a fire in the Capitol building. I just wanted to note that. Ari was having his Freaky Friday stream. I don't know if Ari's going to be on today. We'll see. I don't know. It's Thanksgiving week, right? This will probably be the last broadcast before Thanksgiving, so if I don't see you by Thanksgiving, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family if you celebrate. And if not, you can always be in Thanksgiving, right? You can always be in thanks. That's always a good way to live your life, to be thankful for the things you have, even if you don't have much, right? There's been times when I've had almost nothing. I've been broke and just not doing Thanksgiving that year or whatever, or doing it, but just broke and just miserable and just like, but like, hey, you know what? I'm healthy, right? I got a roof over my head. I got some people still in my family that care about me. I'm not sick. I have use of all my faculties, right? Yeah. So hey, things aren't that bad. Or maybe it was, hey, I got a pack of smokes and a couple bucks in my pocket. I'm not too upset. Whatever it is. Or maybe I got a beautiful wife, a girlfriend, some children that love me. Then you're rich, right? You're rich and you don't even know it. Mamdani, Trump's expected slugfest turns into a love fest. As president says, socialists will make New York City greater than ever before. How's he going to make it greater than ever? He says he wants to make it more affordable. Okay, well, that's great. How are you going to do that? How are you going to convince a landlord to lower the rent in an apartment? That that word isn't in their vocabulary. Landlords don't usually lower the rent. They usually are raising it constantly, right? They're finding a way to raise it, not lower it. The only way I can lower the rent is if you give me free energy, where I don't have, because the biggest expense I have for most of these buildings is heating. If it's in a cold weather place like New York, where it's cold 3 to 5 months, 4 months, 5 months out of the year. I got to heat the building. It's going to cost a lot of money with depending on what oil sales are or gas. If you can give me free energy via Tesla towers, and I can have a device running in my, whatever, that heats the building free, then I can lower the rent then, sure, a little bit. But I'm a greed-motivated person. That's why I buy a building and rent the apartments. I want to make money every month. I want to make as much money as I can. Right? I don't want to lower the rent. I want to raise it. So how am I going to make the city more affordable? What are you going to do? Go to the supermarket and tell the guy, can you make the eggs cheaper? Well, no, I can't, because I got to buy them at a certain price from this wholesale guy. I got to mark it up a bit to make a profit, or else I won't be in business and you won't have a supermarket. I got to pay all the employees. I got to heat the store. I got to keep all these coolers running with all this. You know how much electricity a supermarket uses, dude? On the monthly? A lot. Right? They got stuff that has to run 24/7, right? Those freezers where all the food is, all the meat and all that frozen food has to be kept frozen all the time. Trump says that Zohran Mamdani is not a jihadist. No, he's not. He's going to be fine. He's got no American flag pin on his lapel, Mamdani. Right? Nothing. He doesn't care about America. Why is Trump all of a sudden saying Mamdani's okay? And then everybody was saying, oh, well, he disarmed Mamdani. He made him... Yeah, if I want it to be adversarial, I'll make it adversarial. I won't hold my tongue about who I think you really are. You can't make New York more affordable just by taxing big corporations a little more. They just will leave. They don't care about the people of New York. They just care about their shareholders and making them the most money that they can. That's all they care about. A corporation doesn't care about the people of the city that it happens to rent office space in. Texas creeps indicted in wild plot to invade tiny island to kill the men and use the women and children as their sex slave. What is this? What kind of idea is this? Who comes up with insane ideas like this? What Haitian island? There's islands off of Haiti? I didn't know that. Did you? So wait a minute. What islands off Haiti? Okay, I got to go look at a map. Right? Because I didn't know there was islands off Haiti. But there are some, right? If you look at this map here, there's an island here that has no name. Or does it on this map? Like this island here has no name, right? What's it called? It's actually fairly large. I didn't even know this, right? Because I don't look at maps that much. But there is an island here. But the question is, why doesn't it have a name? Is it on Google Maps? What's going on that island? Something could be going on. Something most definitely could be going on. And something is going on, is my guess. That's not a small island. So in other words, that island, there's people that live on it. The question is, what's going on there? Are the gangs in control of that island? Is that being used to possibly move drugs? It doesn't appear to have a name. So Marjorie Taylor Greene had been questioning Trump. She had been critical of Trump, and now she's all of a sudden leaving Congress. Right as they have some kind of a pension vested so that she had served long enough to get that pension, I guess. So it looked like that she was somebody to me that was just used to get, women to vote for Trump and others, and then now her usefulness is over. Or she had begun to question Trump and what he was doing, and they wouldn't be able to use her anymore. President George H.W. Bush knew of the 1964 alien contact with humans in New Mexico. Well, I'm assuming George H.W. Bush knew a lot about alien contact because he was also, before he was president, he was the head of the CIA. Which means that he had access to a lot of documents that most people don't have access to. Trump terminating deportation protections for Somalis in Minnesota, so we talked about that. Then there was some abductions, and Unfortunately, in Nigeria, where 300 children were and 10 teachers were abducted by gunmen again. So this is what happened the years before. I had heard that I think 50 children escaped, or a certain amount of children somehow got away, so that's thank God for that. I just wrote, this poor country, it has a lot of problems. Somebody's obviously trying to wipe out the kids in these countries, and they're stealing them. Somebody's trying to kill Christians all over the world. Why is that? Who's involved? Is that the Chabad Jews doing that? Is that the Khazarian Mafia? Is that the Pope? Is that, who's doing that? The church? We don't know. So obviously some groups like that. They want to get rid of whites. They want to get rid of European whites. They want to flood Europe with Muslims and military-age Muslim men, which is what's happened. And countries like Ireland and the United Kingdom and Italy and France and Norway and Denmark and Finland and Sweden and Iceland, and these countries are all going to have to make a decision on very, very soon about what they want their future to look like in 50 years from now. Because if some of these countries don't take drastic action right now and begin to deport tens of thousands of Muslims and military-age Muslim men who've been moved into their countries, they're not going to be able to get them out, right? Trump says he would feel comfortable living in socialist Zohran Mamdani's New York. Would you put your business there when he's taxing him more? I don't think so. So I don't know why Trump's turned and now saying he supports Mamdani. I don't understand. Except to think that he's turned and he's now been replaced by whatever group has replaced him, the Red Dragon family or whoever. Starmer joins European leaders expressing concern over Trump's peace plan. Ukraine and U.S. to meet as Zelensky faces humiliating ultimatum. The problem is that the United States is still broke. And no matter where Trump goes and tries to beg for money, nobody's going to give it to him. Not for much longer. Coded QAnon message hidden in Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation letter. Firefighters battling massive blaze on LA cargo ship rocked by huge explosion. So there was a cargo ship that blew up. Oakland's new mayor, Barbara Lee, tells federal and law enforcement to stay away despite city's high crime. I mean, that's where all those robberies are going down, and you don't want any help. No, you want it to keep being a high crime area. Insider reveals why Trump went soft on Mamdani during surprise love-in with socialist at Oval Office. Yeah, they're saying, he played his cards right, he disarmed him, and he didn't give him any ammunition or whatever. We'll see. But you're seeing all these people like the 107s and the Nino Rodriguez's, they're even questioning what the hell's going on. They're like, is there going to be arrests? So is there going to be arrests? And Juan's like, well, they have to plan it out strategically, and it has to be at a moment. The bullshit, dude. We've been at this for almost 6 years now, since Trump first got in office, right? We've been at this for longer, really, 9 years. Trump first got into office 9 years ago. The Clintons are still out there all this time. Gates has still been free all this time. Fauci's still free. The architects of the COVID fake pandemic are still out there. They're still free. They're still profiting. We're still here, right? It's almost 6 years into this reporting, and there's been no major arrest. No one's been hung. No one's been shown to even have ever been at Gitmo. And if you listen to older, sometimes somebody's putting out older Kimberly Goldwyn shows for some reason. I don't know why, but they put out one of the older shows where she did a live broadcast with questions after. And in that broadcast, she was talking about the fact that there is no people down in the dumbs taking those over. If humans went close to those alien-run dumbs, they would be killed automatically. And some of those dumbs, if you go down past certain levels, there's no humans in them. They're only alien-run. So, do you think that we could just have troops walk into these? I don't think that's happening. And that's why Gene Decode can't show you any proof that it is happening, because it's not happening. That's why Gene Decode doesn't have any video of kids in dumbs, kids being brought out of dumbs, kids in cages in dumbs, people being researched in deep underground dumbs. Not that it hasn't happening, he just doesn't have any data of it, because they don't allow you to bring any device into these places that you could record an image with. And if you're found trying to sneak a camera into these places, you're probably going to get shot in the back of your head, I'm assuming. Was this child shot dead in the Balkans war by a tourist sniper? Claims foreign safari hunters paid to shoot civilians in Sarajevo sparked revulsion. Yeah, you never understood why those years, why were they shooting these young kids and people that were just trying to go about their day? Like, what purpose does that serve? You're in some kind of a war. Killing the civilian population usually is not something you do because it doesn't help you win the war. You got to kill the other country's soldiers, right? Amanda Bynes breaks silence on wild claim Nickelodeon producer Dan Schneider impregnated her at 13. Well, I remember seeing this guy in photos of with him in the hot tubs with actors and these kids in the hot tub with like their clothes on though. I can remember seeing that a whole bunch of times. This guy Schneider, he's a real creeper. I think that's probably true. I'm sure he's molested many kids on those Nickelodeon shows, and he's allowed to do it for some reason, and he's never touched. Right? A lot of these pedophiles that people like Cappy were talking about. Was it Cappy? Sorry, Cappy. We're talking about. It's been so long since Cappy died. If he is dead, is Cappy in the pocket universe somewhere? Maybe. Let's hope so, or else he's dead. I remember seeing photos of this man in hot tubs with child actors. I don't want to look his name up. Lawsuit claims leftist Bessent is breaking Michigan election law. She probably is. Federalist. Leticia James lied to bank insurer in alleged mortgage fraud scheme. Well, she got away with it, right? She got away with it. They got a corrupt judge, and who threw the case out? Democrat Kathy Hochul used to back 2A and oppose illegal alien licenses. Now she's flip-flopped. Quote, her past life includes an A rating from the NRA and denying driver's licenses to illegals. Not anymore. Not anymore. You can't conceal or open carry anywhere in New York State. You're not allowed to. I mean, technically you should be able to carry a rifle or a shotgun and open, but you're not allowed to in New York. Maybe upstate if you're hunting, I guess you can. Over 30,000 students absent in Charlotte as ICE operations ramp up. That's a lot of people that are staying absent. Why? Are they all illegal alien kids or illegal aliens? Or they just figured, well, hey, ICE is here, we can take off school? The absences coincide with Operation Charlotte's Web. That's a lot of students. That means you got a lot of illegal aliens in your cities, right? Stacey Plaskett's long ties to constituent Jeffrey Epstein revealed after House Dems text to pedophiles is exposed. Yeah, she's texting Epstein, a known pedophile, from a hearing on Andy Cohen's hearing, right? Trump's lawyer, Cohen's hearing. What can I ask this guy to get him, in more trouble? ICE arrests 3,500 criminal illegal aliens in Houston, Texas. That's a lot. There's a lot of people in Houston now, right? There's probably more there. Trump played Mamdani like a fiddle, some people say, in PJ Media. 50 MPD officers declare restraint Derek Chauvin used on George Floyd was part of training. Yeah, that's to put the knee in the sort of the upper part of the back, right? Not on the neck, but where the neck meets the upper part of your back is where they put it, right? That way you can't get back up. They can put it lower on the mid-back too. It doesn't need to necessarily be on the neck. If it's a very big, powerful guy like George Floyd was, you might want to put it on the neck more or closer to the neck to give you more control, because putting it in the mid-back, you might not be able to put enough pressure to keep a big man like Floyd down who's working out a lot, it looks like, with weights, or did work out at one time. But we know that George Floyd took a big piece of fentanyl that was shown to be in his mouth right before the cop opens his door because he realized he's about to get busted. That's why he says shortly after he can't breathe. He said he couldn't breathe when he was sitting upright in the cop car, right? That's why. The fentanyl was kicking in. And he had taken way too much of a dose. It was the fentanyl and other drugs that killed him. He never told the cops he took fentanyl. If he had, his life may have been saved if they had Narcan on hand. Most cops had Narcan on hand now, right? And they have had Narcan for some time because that's one of the few things that could save your life if you OD on fentanyl or heroin. Excuse me. Bitcoin plunges to lowest level in 7 months as digital asset falls to 80K range. So it's lost a third of its value right there. That's a lot. How much lower does it have to go before the big whales start getting uncomfortable and want to get out and maybe go into something different like gold and silver or whatever? Platinum, copper, palladium, diamonds, art. Here's when the Epstein files will be released. But really, we all we need is the 200 phones that were located there. We want the people who are on the island. And then go through their networks. Right? Who are those people? Oregon City vows to help illegal aliens evade ICE arrests. So here's a city that's letting people sneak in there illegally. And not only is that, is giving them the taxpayers' dollar illegally, and then also is illegally helping them avoid being removed by federal agencies whose job it is to remove illegal aliens from the United States. So they're doing a double, really a triple crime. They're stealing from the taxpayers' coffers to give it to illegal aliens who they know are there illegally. Then they're protecting those illegal aliens from being deported, right? That's a double crime. This report about what the Bush family plans to do after Trump leaves office cannot be real. Are the Bushes trying to get back in power? Well, there's no real Bush clan left. It's just George W. Bush Jr., and he's not smart enough. But there could be some people backing him. They're trying to run some of the younger Bush family and get them into the process. In 1 more year, Trump's a lame duck president if he's still around. I don't see how we go through another year like this where there's all these doubles of Trump running around and nobody's saying anything. Nobody seems to notice it. Ready to fight, Hamas reportedly says it's pulling out a Gaza ceasefire over alleged Israeli violations. New Jersey Ponzi schemer pardoned by Trump's headed back to prison over $44 million COVID scam. So it doesn't look too good when you get pardoned by the president and you get caught in another crime. You just made the president look really bad. New York City man targeted 4 white women in serial spit spree is immediately released. So this guy's been walking around, and what does he do? He spits in white women's faces. That's his thing, because he's black, African American. And what do? They let him right back out of jail. Why not? Anti-Semitic activist Linda Sarsour. Mamdani mayoral win shows hating Israel can send you to City Hall. It sure looks like it in New York. Well, if only 25% of the whole city votes, that's how you get in, right? We can rig it then. If everybody votes, we can't. But for some reason, 6 million people didn't vote, and nobody knows why. Or 5 million plus people didn't vote. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon hosts birthday bash for King Charles at the bank's headquarters. That was odd. I thought he had the king there for his for a birthday party. Why? Are you that close with the king? I didn't know that. Is JP Morgan that close with the king? I guess so. AOC email seeks donations for a turkey giveaway, but the money goes right to her campaign. Right into her coffers. So she's ripping off the public. She's telling you that it's for free turkeys for the most needy in her district, and she's not in her district handing out turkeys. She's never done that. She's never even seen in her district at all. She's hardly ever walked the streets of her own district. She's barely at the office in her district in New York where she's supposed to have office space and be available to the public in her district at least once or twice a week every month, right? A certain amount of days. So Ghislaine Maxwell was seen walking around in the prison with an umbrella on a sunny day, which I said that could be Combs, right? Or she could just not want the sun on her, but what does that mean? Well, maybe that could mean that bad weather's coming, rainy days up ahead, right? That could mean that some rough days are coming for them, rainy days, rough weather. I don't know what that means. Stormy weather is coming. Is an umbrella Combs, or is it just she needs a sunscreen for the Texas heat, right? Because it does get hot in Texas. ICE arrests illegal alien immigrant selling counterfeit goods on Canal Street. So that's just one of the 50 guys. You got to get them all. Show up there with with those big buses, right? Double park them. Get 50 agents to start closing in around Canal Street from the different alleys, like I told you, and you'll get them all. Because these guys got to run with all their gear, with all that stuff. They can't run far. They got all that stuff, their stuff to sell, unless they just run and leave it there, and they don't. They try to police all their stuff up and run away, and then you can just catch them. White female Mamdani's father reveals why new Seattle mayor dropped out of Oxford 6 weeks before graduation. Why did she drop out, this woman, who's now the mayor of Seattle, who says she's an avowed socialist, is now running who's now the mayor of Seattle. That's a problem for people living in Seattle. Instagram accused of profiting from pro-Nazi content as fascist posts pumped out to millions. I mean, I've been on Instagram a little while now. I haven't been on in years. It seems to be just a bunch of bullshit videos that people are sending to each other that are about, these very, like, Facebook Reel stuff. It's just, they got people totally dumbed down watching these stupid 45-second videos of just AI nonsense and crap and animals doing stupid things or whatever, right? People doing dumb things. Jack Posobiec challenges Zohran Mamdani at White House over anti-white discrimination. Posobiec grilled Mamdani on an anti-white policy the mayor-elect proposed during his campaign. Yeah, you can't tax certain people differently, right? You can't say I'm going to tax corporations that have this much money more than these other people. It doesn't work like that. You have a corporate tax, you have a income tax, personal tax for the city, whatever that is, taxes that people have to pay, but you can't say, hey, this company has to pay more tax because they have more money. Somali-run Minnesota nonprofit funneled taxpayer funds for autistic kids to Islamic terror group. Quote, for every dollar that is transferred from the Twin Cities back to Somalia, Al-Shabaab is taking a cut. So these Somalis that came over, they just took over like parts of Minnesota. There's huge swaths of these areas of some of the cities there. Same with Dearborn, Michigan, and different parts of Michigan, where there's huge Muslim populations now that weren't there before. There's people complaining that you're playing the call to prayer 5 times a day and I live 3 or 4 blocks from your mosque. I don't want to hear this noise anymore. And the mayor happens to be a Muslim and says, well, that's not a real concern. Sorry. Oh, okay. So now my property value has gone to 0 because how am I going to sell my house when you're playing the call to prayer 5 times a day starting at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m.? How am I going to sell my house to somebody who's not Muslim? They're not going to want to live here because it's too noisy. My property value just went to 0. 0. Zohran Mamdani says Trump is still a fascist despot, but claims they agree on most important issues. Yeah, he's a fascist, but hey, we agree that housing should be cheaper. I mean, even Stalin, while he was killing his own people, gave everybody a place to live, right? And here's your food ration. This is how much bread you can get per week. Here's how much milk you can have. You can't make any extra big cakes or any foods that, nope, it's a very strict diet and you have a strict amount of food that we give you. And that's it. You want to buy a bottle of vodka? That's a whole other story, man. No. Right? You want something, you want a little extra chocolate? You want some extras? No, 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 no. You can't have a farm. You can't grow anything. You can't create anything. Trump to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Well, that should have been done a long time ago, buddy. Well, you're way late to the party with all this crap. You see how it's too late? It's too fucking late. The damage has already been done. Antifa's already established. The damage is done. You got Joe Biden in for 4 years and you ruined the country on purpose. And now we know that. You did it so you could paint the picture and try to take us down a road that you were creating, but it wasn't the right road because you never got financed. You don't have the money to do what you're doing. And no one's ever going to pay for it. It's time for the Derek Chauvin conviction to be overturned. The guy was dead already over the fentanyl. He couldn't breathe because of the fucking fentanyl. Hello? FBI missed multiple opportunities to stop Thomas Crooks before he tried to assassinate Trump. Ex-Assistant Director fumes. Yeah, we knew this years ago. When it happened, the year and whenever it first happened, the Secret Service guys who were just coming off shift, who had watched Crooks sitting at a picnic tables right near their exfil point where their cars were parked, was saying, hey, keep an eye on this kid with the glasses. He's right there. He's right near where our cars are parked. He's going to see us exfilling out of our location, our watch point, and he's going to know we're here, where we are. He's going to have an idea that where we are. Keep an eye on this kid. Either move him or have him on your radar at least and do whatever, right? That was 45 minutes before Trump was shot. Then what happens? They proceed to let this kid walk around, get himself on a rooftop where there's another counter sniper in the same building, in a window not 40 or 60 feet away from where Crooks was laying down on the rooftop. And he's seen by multiple people before he shoots. So the whole thing is a canard. It's bullshit. Are you kidding? And nobody could get to this guy? Nobody saw him? They saw him 45 minutes before he took a shot. They knew he was there. They knew he was there 45 minutes to an hour before Trump ever got there. So how come all these guys couldn't stop him? Because they let him do what he did on purpose. Of course they could have stopped him. The guys saw him 45 minutes. All they had to do was have somebody go down there and grab him, right? Take him in for questioning for a while. Who are you? Let's search you. What do you got on you? Or watch him until he gets to the rooftop and starts to go up and then grab him, right? You should have had somebody following him the whole time. If 45 minutes ahead you had spotted him already by the picnic tables. Doge doesn't exist. It ends with 8 months left on its mandate. What do you mean it ended? Where's my Doge check, bro? You got took. You got played. You thought that this guy was really doing it, right? He was going to redo the government and take over and redo all the offices, and you were going to get a $5,000 Doge check plus the $2,000. That's $7,000 you owe us that we never got. Where's my $7,000? Where's my Doge check plus $2,000? Where's my money? Right? That's how New Yorkers are when you owe us money. Where's my money? I'll break your kneecaps. You don't got my money? What? That's the old mafia way, right? You take money off of Shylock, take a couple, you go to the street for some cash because you got a gambling problem, and then you get out of control and you can't pay the money back. They'll break your fucking legs, bro. If you're lucky, they'll just break one of your legs. And then you still got to pay them back, right? Israel says it killed Hezbollah's number 2 leader in a Lebanon strike. Where's my freaking Doge check? You liar. Before you promise another $2,000 that you can't pay, don't promise me $5,000 that you can't pay. And then what do you expect me to believe you on the same lie twice? No, it doesn't work like that, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? That means I'm a sucker because I let you lie to me twice. In New York, usually after one lie, I don't believe you no more. That's how New Yorkers are. We don't take no bullshit. I'll believe your lie when my $5,000 Doge check arrives in my mailbox, which it never did. New study suggests everyone was wrong about where the moon came from. Yeah, I think it's pretty much an artificial satellite, is my guess. It doesn't rotate properly. It only shows you one side of it, which most satellites don't do. Most satellites rotate in a normal orbit where I see all sides of the planet. There's just too many things about it that don't make sense. And actually, if the moon landings were real, they said that when they landed on the moon, it rang like a bell for, I don't know, a whole hour or something when they crashed on the moon. Something crashed, or they crashed. When something crashed. Who knows at this point? I don't feel like it's real. X rolls out location feature, unmasking that some Maga accounts are foreign-based. So some of these accounts that you think are Maga guys and they live in the United States and they're big Maga people, they're not. They're just like a bot that's running overseas somewhere on some phone. And we saw those bot farms during the 2020 election, and the 2024 election. These bot farms are becoming more and more prevalent. You have AI more prevalent, way more prevalent now. All of a sudden, YouTube is just littered with AI videos, and most of them are not labeled as AI. Cuts to agency tasked with securing elections sparks concerns ahead of 2026 midterms. We do not have a sense of whether we can rely on CISA for these services as we approach a big elections year in 2026. Well, CISA is no good. CISA never did its job anyway. And it never showed the election fraud that went on because of the Dominion machines that we showed. And we showed that there's a backdoor in the CITL program. We showed how hackers had been employed by Swiss Post when they were looking to buy CITL's source code in CITL's company. And they realized they can't buy CITL because there's a backdoor in CITL's source code where a hacker could enter and change vote totals and then leave without being seen or noticed and leave no visible trail. So it's a perfect mechanism. CITL and Dominion machines together is the perfect mechanism to cheat on elections, which is why it was created in the first place, to get people in like Maduro and the other guy from Brazil who was really made for to get that guy into Brazil, right? He paid a lot of money to have that created for him. The old Brazilian leader who was Chavez, right? Cuts to agency tasked with securing elections sparks concern. I don't think so. I think we just need to go to paper ballots finally and stop all this electronic bullshit, and everyone should get multiple different ways that you get you should get an email verification that you voted, as well as a physical piece of paper that I voted this way. So it's a double confirmation that yes, I voted for Trump, or yes, I voted for this person. 50 children escaped kidnappers in Nigeria. More than 250 are held. It could be up to as many as 400 or 5 now. I think they kidnap more. Trump hits the pause button on sending National Guard to New York after his meeting with Mamdani. So why did he hold back? And you're going to let all these illegal things go on in New York that need to be stopped, like the human trafficking is not going to be stopped now. Prostitution is going to be run rampant even more because Mamdani's pro-prostitution, believe it or not. So he's okay with, hookers on the stroll in Queens where your family has to walk by on certain boulevards. He's okay with prostitutes out there during the day wearing scantily clad women. So none of those things are going to get fixed now in New York, especially since Trump's not going to allow ICE or the National Guard into New York, which has one of the largest gang problems of all the cities, right? Even more than Chicago. And probably LA and New York would rival each other, if maybe LA might even have more, or California might have more gang members just because of its size. California and New York, the two most major gang cities that have gang cities in them that need to be dealt with, for sure. Now, we just had a situation where a mob showed up with these vehicles, right? They like to do these burnouts and do donuts in the street. But when a person came out from the nearby house that they were doing this at, this person was beaten. His car was set on fire. He's in critical condition in the hospital. This isn't a residential Queens neighborhood where people are not used to this kind of shit going down. And so when people called 911, the cops, for some reason, was very slow in their response. They said NYPD claimed that they were busy with other cases. But when you have a bunch of people doing stuff like this and cars are on fire and there's people doing burnouts in the street, you need to get cops there quick to get the people that are doing this before it gets out of control. And they didn't do that. Gavin Newsom's inner circle on edge as multiple aides receive ominous letter from the FBI just days after California governor's chief of staff was indicted. I'm going to need to take a break soon, friends. I'm about an hour and a half in. I'm trying to push. I'm trying to do as many articles. I got about 150 articles this week. So I appreciate you listening to my show. We're approaching 950 shows. We started shortly before the 2020 elections. Actually, I started more in the summer of 2020, and I forgot that I had started on YouTube. So we're back on YouTube again under NPMP News. And we are also, you can see on X.com on NPMP News. You can find us at YouTube.com at NPMP News. And we are also on Rumble at NPMP News. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the well wishes from some of you about my dad's passing. It means a lot to me. We weren't the closest of family, but it still hurts when you lose one of your parents, and especially hurts when there's unsettled sort of things between you that you wish you could have said, but you never really couldn't figure out how to say, right? Sometimes that happens too. So don't be afraid to say how you feel to the ones you love and share with them that you love them. And I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Like I said, if you're celebrating, excuse me. And I'm going to be right back in just one moment. I'm going to get that drink, and I'm going to come back and finish up strong. There's still a lot of articles left to cover and some things I want to talk about as we sort of wind down from this long process of trying to make a news archive that covers these time period of 2020 to whenever we get finished with this nightmare, and so that people in the future can sort of look back and say, wow, look at what these people went through to get us to where we are now, to the beautiful world that we live in. We had to go through quite a bit of, and the reason we're going through it is because there's a group of people that just doesn't want to understand that their time is over. They can't understand that. So I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. This is your friend in New York, Ash, NPMP News. I'm going to take this quick break. And while I'm getting this drink, you could do some sit-ups, push-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, guys, I'm back. Thanks for that break. I really did need that. Got to get that drink refilled. Got to get that break in. So Gavin Newsom's inner circle looks like they're in trouble, right? He's responsible for ruining his state. He was supposed to be recalled, if you remember, in the recall election that was, of course, rigged. Just like the other election was, where we saw the vote totals literally changing right before our eyes. As the results were cycling through, every minute or so you'd see the results again, and then you'd see that they change. They go down, right, for Trump and up for Biden, or down for Newsom, being impeached, and up for the other way, right? So it's in other words, when you start an election, your vote totals never go down; they always go up. Scientists issue ominous warning over mind-altering brain weapons that can control your perception. Yeah, it's called MK Ultra too. They can do it like that too. They can do it a bunch of ways. Do they maybe now have some way they can just beam something on you and make you do what they want? That would be better than them having to do what MK Ultra, because the original way that they were doing MK Ultra stuff was with horrific things they would have to do to, like, break you, right? So you'd have an alter that you would create in your mind. And usually the only way to make you create an alter to split your personality was to do some horrible thing to you, right? Like rape or abuse of some kind, physical abuse, fear, torture, combinations of such. And so, unfortunately, people were horribly tortured and messed around with. And this is from letting the Nazis this is part of what the paperclip Nazis were involved in, who were involved in human experimentation before that, right? They were looking to create the master race. They were looking to create super soldiers, Ubermensch, Superman, right? Ubermensch, not Untermensch. Right? Any undesirables were called Untermensch. Ubermensch was going to be the new soldier, right? The new Aryan soldier, the new Aryan race that was supposed to rule for 1,000 years. Well, it seems like they're ruling right now. You just don't realize it. I mean, some guy named Adolf Hitler just ran for re-election in Namibia, and he won. Namibian political burden with Nazi tyrant's name hopes for 5th term, and he won. Adolf Hitler. They elected some dude named Adolf Hitler. They don't give a shit. It's all good. Is he actually a good leader? You're the good Hitler? Okay, I don't know about that. Kash Patel went ballistic on SWAT team for ditching his girlfriend during performance. They're not even supposed to be there watching your girlfriend. Who cares about your girlfriend? She's not a national security asset. She's not a politician. You're using my tax dollar to watch your girlfriend and give her security. It's bullshit. Mark Carney reignites feud with Trump and says worlds can move on without United States weeks after Canadian PM apologized to President. Canada can never seem to have a leader that does the right thing. Why is that? Same with the United States, really. Right. Even then when Trump came in, you thought, oh, right, we're okay now. He's going to give me free energy, and he's going to release all the anti-gravitic craft. We're going to have new airlines. Nope, nothing like that. We're going to have free energy. We're going to have Nasara, Jassara. We're going to have all the money that was stolen from you. All the money that's in your Social Security account, you'll have access to. You got nothing, right? None. You didn't even get your $5,000 Doge check. And you're not going to get this $2,000 check next year either, is my guess. Why? Because the United States corporation is bankrupt. And you are an asset of that corporation. You are money. You have been turned into money, is what you don't realize. You can talk about you're a sovereign human being all you want, but if you have a Social Security number, you're not a sovereign human being. You're an asset of the corporation. Your name is your number. David's rental allegedly had a freezer big enough to store a body. Yeah, these people eat people. You understand that? If you're a satanic person like this, they eat people. That's the end game of it. To get you to eat another human being. Which does something to change, which isn't good for human beings, right? We found out, right? You can get diseases like Kuru, which is called the laughing disease. Some of these indigenous tribes that were carnivorous, that were eating other people, other tribes people, or people that they happen to catch stumbling through their area, they developed this disease called Kuru. It was alleged that Hillary Clinton has Kuru. Innocent woman, 26, set alight on Chicago subway by serial criminal, 50 years old. He was freed on ankle monitor by soft touch judge. Yeah, the guy's got, 70, This is just stuff that they do to enrage the populace. I'm surprised it hasn't been some kind of bigger events, like especially with the migrant stuff in other countries. Maybe they're suppressing it, that there has been. I'm surprised that there's not gangs forming, because Ireland's known to have had gangs way before. And if you don't want certain groups like this making gangs again that are pro-Ireland gangs, and I'm not talking just about because of course Ireland has certain groups that have been involved in terrorist activities allegedly in the past too, right? We've seen that. What were they called? What was that group called? I can't remember. There was the IRA that was accused of blowing up and doing, bombings and things for years in the 80s and the 70s and 80s period, 90s. Mostly 70s, 80s. Clinton Treasury Secretary Summers cozied up to Epstein and likely to CCP. Yeah, we know that Clinton was involved with Epstein. We know that Trump was involved with Epstein. We don't seem to think that Bush is involved with Epstein because they probably knew what Epstein was. Why did Trump get caught up in Epstein's orbit? Well, because he's trying to repair his image and get to the next level. In the late 80s, when his casinos begin to lose money, and then they're being used as an alleged money laundering mechanism by somebody, is my guess. And then those Trump is good at going bankrupt and then coming back out. He's an expert at it, in fact. So he's somebody that I think is used to not just launder money for people, and that's why he's allowed to become a billionaire. But they have other compromise on him, is my guess. Trump admin is legally required to shut down the CFPP. If you go back and really dig deep into Trump, it's well known that he liked younger women. And you can see how excited he is talking to Epstein when he's got them all at Mar-a-Lago in his little world, and he could pick which one he wants. He loves it. The power of that, right? Having all those women out there and they all want you. It's like if you're a rock star, stuff like that, right? That adulation is like a drug. It's one of the most intoxicating drugs, right? Because it feeds the ego in such a big, big way. Vindman responds to DOD requesting House investigate his Ukraine work, calls it a sham. Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth just launched a sham investigation into me for my support for Ukraine, all because I demanded Trump's call transcripts with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman be released. Well, you know what transcripts were released was the transcripts of Biden with Poroshenko that were damning, right? Where he's telling Poroshenko, you got to move quick because we don't want Trump to come in and figure out what the hell we really are doing over here, right? And we still to this day don't know what they're really doing over there. Besides money laundering, one, yes. Besides probably human trafficking, two, organ harvesting and trafficking, three, human trafficking, four, money laundering and drug networks, five, etc. in ad infinitum. Add on other stuff too. House Intel chief warns foreign actors are conspiring with Americans to sow discord inside the United States. We need to know about it. We need to be in a position to intercept those kinds of things and protect our citizens here at home. Well, how come you can't do it? We're the most highly surveilled people besides China in the world, pretty much. If every fucking email and every text that people send and goes in and out comes through you, how come you can't find these people? How come you can't find all the threats and neutralize them? Because you don't want to find them. You only want to find certain ones. No shit, Sherlock, I said. We talked about Handrug Weiss years ago. No one did shit about it, right? No one knows. We know who the people are. They're Soros. They're Handrug Weiss. They're other billionaires. It's Peter Thiel. It's people like this. It's BlackRock. It's JP fucking Morgan. It's all this shit, right? We got to get rid of all this shit. It's all got to go by the wayside. It can't be used anymore. It's all fake profit. And a system that's an AI-run system that is false and bogus, that is not. It's a money slavery system in a sense. It's a debt slavery system, right? It runs on debt. It runs on illusion, debt slavery, and lack, and negative. And we have to get rid of that and have a positive system that runs on golden age money, gold, positive. Right? There shouldn't really be money. I mean, yeah, you should need money for certain things, but everybody should have everything they need. Like a house and a car and this and that. Yeah, and if you want certain luxury items, you'd pay cash for it. But everything, you don't need that much. We should all have food should be free. Why should I have to pay tax on the land that I own? I shouldn't once I own it once. Maybe on the initial purchase put a tax on it. All right, I get it. You want to tax me once for buying 50 acres? I get it. Tax me once. But don't keep taxing me every year for the rest of my life. I already bought the land. I own it now. If you want to say we can own it. There was a time when nobody owned any land, right? People just wandered around the earth looking for food and following different game, different lives, and then people began to domesticate animals and settle down and farm the land and do things like that and make cities and make towns and make villages. Rubio reports significant progress in Russia-Ukraine peace talks. People have been messing around in this country for a long, long time. You haven't done anything to get rid of them. Like starting to mass deport certain Chinese people that are here that you think might be, or other groups of people that might be doing something wrong here. Do you know all the Muslims that are in the United States or what they're doing? I don't think so. Obviously not. If there's Somali networks in Minnesota, you just figured out that they're doing all kinds of stuff that are sending money out of the country. Obviously somebody's not looking into it. If you got state-sponsored terror in Minnesota, tax dollars going to Somali Al-Qaeda group, obviously somebody's not keeping an eye on where this money's going. The Clintons are risking prison if they defy Epstein subpoenas, PJ Media. We got chemtrailed the other day, November the 24th, heavily chemtrailed. And today is overcast all day and rainy. So we got they're just doing huge lines across the sky. There was an X in the sky. They're laying it down hard. And all this time later into this already, after Trump's almost 5 years of Trump, and you're still getting chemtrailed. After RFK Jr. says, yeah, we know who's doing it. We think it's DARPA. Well, why don't you go march over to DARPA and shut them down? Trump? Why isn't Trump in DARPA's office with the head of DARPA on the phone? What the fuck are you doing? Are you putting this stuff into the sky or not? If you are, cease and desist right away. If I see one more chemtrail in the sky, you're going to be arrested and put to death for directly disobeying a direct order from the president. It's that simple, really. Call up the head of DARPA and say, are you doing this or not? And if you are doing it, stop doing it. And if you're not doing it, who is? I want that guy in my office now. Yesterday. Yeah, right. You don't call them. You summon them to your office. That's what you do as president. Get DARPA in there. Call up the CIA and find out everything you know that DARPA's been doing the last 6 years and find out who's doing the chemtrails. How hard is it? We already have people like Dane Winnington and others that have done extensive research into who's doing it. There's units within the Air Force that are doing it as well, right? So who's really doing it? Who's controlling this? The Air Force? Is it Secret Space Program? And what about all the people who you've been using in military programs and then wiping their memories out? What about those people? Are you going to notify them that they've been used? Are they going to be compensated for the money, the things that they may have done? What if you work 20 or 40 or 60 years in some pocket universe for these fuckers where there's no time, and then they reinsert you back into your life again? And they age regress you back to where they took you and they put you back in. And they erase your memory. That's what people are saying they're doing. Chinese Bitcoin mining giant Bitmain under probe. Massive fraud by Somali immigrants in Minnesota hands GOP political hammer against liberal programs. Officials say some money siphoned away by Somali immigrants made its way to Kenya and Somalia. That's triple confirmation. NCAA ex-Temple basketball player Hizier Miller bet on his team to lose multiple times. That's the worst of the worst, right? If that's like Pete Rose, but Pete Rose said, "Oh no, I never bet on my team to win or lose. I bet on other teams." Well, that's bad enough, not as bad then, right? In a sense, this kid's betting on his team to lose. Well, then you could throw a game, real easy, right? Miss a few jumpers, maybe foul out real early and cause the team to lose, or do something that makes the team lose, and then you win, right? Because you bet big on the team to lose. It's different though if you're betting on your team to win every time, right? And then you're doing sick stuff and winning. That might be looked at differently. But if you're betting on the team to lose and then helping them to lose, it's obvious that you are involved in some kind of a criminal enterprise. Trump backs Ukraine peace deal. Don't believe it until you see it, but something good just may be happening. So we don't know. It doesn't look like Russia's okayed it. We'll have to wait and see. Is Zelensky's back finally maybe to the wall where he might be removed if he doesn't stop the war soon by his own people? Maybe, right? Because the Ukraine people are getting pretty tired of this, I'm assuming. Imagine if you live in Kyiv this whole time. Nobody's helping you. Did you ever see the UN go into Kyiv with any food? No, not once, right? I don't see any big food going into Kyiv to help the people starving there, do you? No. Judge dismissed cases against ex-FBI Director Comey and Tish James. Walk free. So much for that. So now you're not going to get Comey. Unless maybe they can appeal it. We'll see. They might appeal Comey's case, get it to another judge, and then get another guilty verdict. And then, of course, they could appeal. Pentagon probing serious allegations of misconduct into Senator Mark Kelly after Trump accused him of sedition. Benjamin Fulford is alleging the short, fake Trump will be removed shortly. That's what he's saying if you watched his last show. That's not me saying it. But if that's true, well then, is there a real other Trump that's going to then step forward and say, okay, now we could tell you really what was going on. We couldn't tell you before. It doesn't make sense, right? In other words, let's just say there is a real Trump. I'm the real Trump. I'm the light-haired Trump that's 6'3". And if I know that there's a golden-haired Trump out there that's pretending to be me, why wouldn't I be screaming that from the rafters? Hey, look at this guy. He's not me. That's the fake me. From now on, I'll wear this special pin so you know it's me. Beneath my flag pin. That only I have this thing, and you'll know it, right? Then you'll know it's me. Did he do that? No. He allowed the fake Trump to keep going out there because there is no real Trump. They're both fake. That's my guess. Leaked recording reveals Campbell's exec's sickening remarks about the soup's ingredients. Yeah, he said the soup's ingredients is lab-grown meat. So the chicken soup is not real chicken soup. It's not real chicken meat. It's lab-grown chicken meat. So don't eat Campbell's chicken noodle soup anymore. It's crap. Don't eat any Campbell's products. They're all shit. Don't eat any canned products at all. They're all shit. All those cans have a lining that is cancer causing in the lining, right? A lot of those canned foods. Try to eat as little canned foods as possible. If you can buy your products in glass jars, it's a lot better for you. That's why you see a lot of things went to glass jars. Try to learn how to can your own food too. Can vegetables and meats. You can can meat. You can store meat for a long period of time. Go look into Amish meat storing. Meat storing, meat canning. You can can meat where you don't need, you get a cellar. You do a root cellar on your property that's a few feet underground where it's cooler. That's what people used to do. They used to can their own meats and vegetables and stuff, right? And fruits and everything. Boston suburbs is outraged after woke mayor announces that the trash will only be collected once a fortnight to help save the planet. That's like twice a month or something. If you only did that in New York, boy, it would be rat city so quick. I remember some of the garbage strikes where the garbage was piled up after weeks of like the garbage not being collected. It was the biggest nightmare you've ever seen, and it smelled so bad. I remember walking by like piles of garbage taller than me as a kid, and it smelled so bad. And it was in the summer too. Then that finally ended, and they got all the garbage out. Garbage strikes usually don't last too long. I'm sure that people are going to be pissed. They're like, wait a minute, we pay all this money in taxes to have garbage collection at least twice a week or every other week, but not every, you have to have it at least twice a week. People are generating certain amounts of garbage, right? Where does it all go? Seattle City Council ends program distributing crack pipes and tinfoil to drug users. It feels like it's giving a loaded gun to somebody who's suicidal. It was a stupid idea in the first place. If somebody's like, hey, I'm a serial killer, would I give him a knife or a gun? No. Why make it easier to be an addict and do your crime? It should be hard to be an addict. It used to be hard to be an addict, right? You gotta go find the junk, and then you gotta go find a place to fix up where you're not gonna get busted or caught by someone or seen by so many people, shoot up. Nowadays, these guys don't even care about where they shoot up. They shoot up right in the street. They cook up right in the middle of parks and right by your kids. They don't give a shit because nobody does anything about it. Nobody says anything about it. Everyone's too scared to get involved. Or most people are. I get it. You don't want to fight a junkie, do you? No. Want to get a junkie's blood on you? Want to have to get down and dirty with a junkie on the ground, beat the fuck out of him? No, you don't really want to, do you? Most people don't. Why? Because they're dirty. They smell. They might have diseases. They might have AIDS. Pentagon probing serious allegations of misconduct into Senator Mark Kelly. Well, it's one thing, you're not supposed to tell soldiers, hey, disobey the president's orders, right? And if you're in a wartime situation and somebody said that, they could be shot as a treasonous act. You're telling me to disobey a direct order from my superior? That can be considered treason. October 7th, victim families sue Binance over $1 billion in secret funding for Hamas Palestinian terror groups. I think my mouse is dying. I hope not. My battery in my mouse is dying. I don't have a mouse pad, so I can use my mouse this way. Binance is getting sued by the families, it looks like. Binance is in big trouble. And who got just pardoned by Trump? The CEO of Binance. Royals are coming to celebrate our 250th birthday. Remember they were saying that this July 4th is going to be a big deal? Like, is everything going to come out then? And we have to wait till July next year? Is Trump going to are we still going to be doing this fake bullshit this whole time? And they're stringing you along with the deportations and that, trying to take your attention away from that as they invest more money in old oil-based, like they said in The Landman, right? Where there's a 150-year infrastructure based around petroleum in the world. It's not easy to just break free from that. And that's why Tesla had so much, even when Tesla was around at the beginning of that process, or more towards the beginning of it, there were still others that didn't trust what Tesla was doing or want it to happen for some reason. Those are the people that were steering us down this way, a petroleum-based culture. Because they wanted you to actually eat the petroleum. Right? Think about it. What's Vaseline? Used to put Vaseline on your baby's bottom, or if your baby got a rash. Or I used to use Vaseline on my lips when they got chapped. That's petroleum jelly. That's made from oil, gasoline products, right? Oil-based. Some of your pills are made from oil-based. plastics are made from oil-based products. The whole plastics way that they took us, right? MP Lazimi accuses Benjamin Netanyahu of being responsible for the October 7th attacks. So, I wanted to show this, but my mouse is not working anymore. And I don't want to take another break to get a battery for it. So I'll just skip that. But you can go look up on YouTube, MP Lazimi, Lazimi, accuses Netanyahu of being responsible for the October 7th attacks. Actually, I can't even stop. I'm going to have to go get a new battery and keep the stream running just for a second. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to keep this stream running. I'm going to go run into the other room real quick, get the battery, come back. I got other batteries, don't worry. And I'll restart. So just give me 2 seconds. This will be like a small mini break, but there won't be a break. So if you want to take a break, you can. I'll be right back, guys. Thanks. Gotta get that battery. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Here we go. That wasn't too bad a battery change. That was like some NASCAR right there. Let's listen to MP Lazimi accuse Netanyahu. This happened about a week ago. Let's listen to MP Lazimi.
Netanyahu,
Let's listen to her accuse Netanyahu of funding October 7th attacks and Hamas funding.
Issue of the October Return Massacre, the greatest disaster the country has known, happened on your watch. Even if you sleep with a clear conscience, we will not forget. I accuse you, Benjamin Netanyahu, of funding Hamas, building terror, and turning a blind eye, the existential threat to us, abandoning the security of the state as a policy. I accuse you, Netanyahu, of turning the working and serving public into the donkey of the Messiah. I accuse you, Netanyahu. Your personal corruption has become a national plague. Every corrupt person becomes a partner. The bigger the file you have on someone, the more convenient they are for you. The trial of one man has taken an entire country hostage. Dozens of hostages were murdered and killed in captivity, while you did not fulfill the commandment of redeeming captives. I accuse you, Benjamin Netanyahu. I accuse you of the October Return Massacre, the greatest disaster the country...
Okay, I think that was already, that's just rehashing what she said before. I just wanted to include that. I know it's a little loud, sorry if it comes off too loud. So that was MP Lazimi openly accusing Netanyahu of being responsible for the October 7th attacks as well as funding Hamas, allegedly funding Hamas. Trump hits lowest approval ever as he loses grip on Maga issues that built his political brand. Well, it's the tariffs he imposed was a huge mistake, right? Because not only does it anger our trading partners, it also makes certain things a lot more expensive to import into the United States. Like, for instance, my mom likes these candies she orders, and if she wants to get the candy now from overseas, where the country that creates those candies, it's going to cost $40 to ship the candy to the United States. because of the tariffs. So it kind of defeats the purpose. Do I want to spend more on the shipping the candy to my house than the candy actually costs? It makes my candy cost like $60 then instead of just $25 or whatever. So you've made it that all these, and then he had to lower the tariffs on certain things because it was making food more expensive and everything for Americans who are already suffering. Right, and then you promise them a $5,000 Doge check that you never give them, and another $2,000 check that you're probably never going to give them. That's a lot of money, man. To most people, if you're suffering and you're living day to day, $7,000 is a big deal. It's a big deal for almost anybody, especially if you don't got much in your bank account. That could get you back on your feet, get your bills paid, some back bills that have gone late paid up, and you still got money left. Maybe you want to get a little silver, right? A little gold, something. Trump's in trouble with his base because they're like, where's the arrest? Where's the big arrest? You didn't even get Comey. Now you let Comey off. It looks like Leticia James is going to walk free. You're going to have to now appeal both of those and hope another judge gets it. Italian Interior Ministry, foreign nationals linked to nearly half of sexual violence arrests despite making up just 9% of the population. Yeah, because they're raping your populace. They're raping your populace. That's their job. They want to get rid of the white Italian people. They want to get rid of white Europe. How am I going to do it? I got to start raping your women. That's why the rape statistics in Sweden went sky high as soon as these guys came in. That's why the rape statistics are sky high in Italy now, where just 9% of the population is responsible for almost half your sexual assaults, which means if you deport those 9%, your sexual assaults will drop 50%. That's big. That means that these people are the problem. The illegal aliens are the problem. Many of them are rapists. That's fact. How can I prove that's fact? Because my sexual violence statistics prove it for the last years that you've been letting these people in. Before I let these people into my country, my sexual assault stats were 50% lower. That's huge, and you can't ignore that. And if the leaders of Sweden and Norway and Finland and Denmark continue to ignore it, they will be voted out of office by their populace very quickly, I'm assuming. Thanks, Prince of the Air, for all these shows. I didn't see this. I'll have to go look up these shows. These videos that you posted of music. I appreciate you. It's hard when you lose your dad. Sometimes, you feel different ways. People grieve different ways. I look at death as a little bit different than most people. I look at it as an escape from this place, so I don't look at it as the end of us. It's not. The death is just a begin. It's another journey, part of your journey. It's part of your journey's, your soul's journey into the next part of its incantation, which was, I think, caught up in a sort of reincarnation loop here in the earth, which we shouldn't have been involved in. You should be able to reincarnate if you so choose, but if you don't want to, you shouldn't have to. And instead, your soul or your energy can go and explore and do other things, but not anymore. I think we've been caught up in this reincarnation loop that I'm hoping is ending. Ukraine agrees to peace deal brokered by Trump. We'll see about what if Russia does. Young Italian couple is attacked. So it looks like this couple was having sex in their car, and some migrants came out, saw what they were doing, grabbed the girl and raped her while he had a watch. Not to end on bad news, but I said, what will it take for the public to act? Soon people will start to act and take back their towns. And they're already starting to do it. You can go on some sites and they have guys who go around the UK and they challenge some of these migrants in the different parts of Europe, and who some of them are very aggressive and they fight with them even. Some people are attacking the pickpockets who are dealing in the subways in Rome and different cities in Italy who are trying to rob the populace and pick their pockets. We don't have that kind of problem here in New York. Not are there pickpockets here? Yeah, but not nearly in the. Seems like there's crews of pickpockets over there. Florida AG launches probe into Campbell's over the claims that they're 3D printed meat in beloved soup. That would be a shame. But you're realizing that a lot of the food that we eat is poison. It's not good, and it could easily be made better. All you got to do is take all the chemicals out of it, right? Get rid of Monsanto. Trump never did that. Get rid of all these chemical companies. Get rid of all the chemicals in our food. Get back to normal food. Stop the pesticides. Use things like copper wire in the ground to get rid of all pests. You don't need pesticides. You don't need this weed killer shit, right? Look at how the Amish kill weeds. They use salt and a couple of other ingredients. You don't need weed killer that goes into the ground and destroys it. Everything that these people have been doing is in a way to cull humanity and to kill us, to keep our numbers down, to keep us fat, right? Overweight, fat, bloated, diseased, not thinking clearly, not thinking straight, ego-driven, right? Driven by lust, greed, and emotions like that instead of love and kindness and acceptance of others. Instead, they have us separated, bloated, filled with chemicals and drugs, and they've done it to us for way too long, and that's now ending, right? Soon we'll be free of all this, and we'll be free, but we have to first find out who's doing this to us, identify these people, have them charged, have them publicly arrested, and that's not happening under Trump. And it's taken way too long, and the people that have been backing Trump, or even those people, are starting to waffle and think, well, how long can I keep saying EBT is imminent, all right? How long can I keep saying, oh, there's going to be a new banking system? How long can I keep saying there's going to be a Jassara Nassara that never comes? How long can you keep enticing people to buy gold and silver that you're selling them and enriching yourself until they realize that you're just a charlatan, and then they start to turn on you? And that time is coming for those people. What's General Flynn's angle in all this? Because he's not loyal to Trump, and he's not helpful. He's not somebody that the American people should be looking to for leadership. How come there's not one leader that has come out that has had an alternative message of peace, of love? There's nobody's come out like that, right? They tried to sell it to you as Trump, but that's obviously becoming more and more unlikely, as you've realized all the disinformation agents that we've been listening to for all these years, and now their stories are now starting to fall apart. And we're still here reporting on what we see happening, right? Because that's what we've always been doing. We've been reporting the news as it happens. We've been watching the stories and telling you what we think is going on when we don't have all the information. But we've never tried to tell you that we've known people in the government. We never tried to tell you we have secret information. We never tried to tell you we know aliens or people who are off planet. We never did that because we don't. And as we, I just mean me, because it's just me doing this channel. There is no we. I am not Borg. Right? The Borg like to think that we are Borg, right? Remember in Star Trek, they want to assimilate Captain Picard and call him Locutus. Remember, they made Kirk into Locutus. I mean Picard, not Kirk. The Borg made Picard into Locutus, but he came back, right? They turned him back from the Borg. He is not Borg. We are not Borg. We are Borg in the sense that we are a human collective, but who can co-create together. But it doesn't mean that, but we're also each individual selves, right? Humans have individual characteristics that make them different from each other. Some people look different. Some are taller. Some are shorter. Some people have different skin colors. That's all done on purpose, I'm assuming. But if we think about ourselves, really we're human, right? Human. So we need to come together with our humanity, that we are all human beings on this planet. We all deserve to be loved. We all deserve to have a home. We all deserve to have shelter and food. And we should deserve to be sovereign and free in our own countries, right? And not used by the government as a piece of money, right? As an asset of a corporatized nation. We never agreed to become a corporatized nation. We never agreed to be human chattel for anybody. So friends, I hope you're well. These shows are coming to an end as I feel us going into a higher density and a better new way of life. I don't know how that's going to be. I was hoping to get to the end of the story where we could see what really happens here. Is some group of people going to step in and remove Trump or the fake Trump or whoever that is and put in some new government that's going to say, hey, this is the new way forward? We don't know. We haven't seen those people. It doesn't appear that there's anybody out there that is really only concerned with the good of humanity that I could see right now. And that has me very worried, if I'm going to be honest with you. So we'll continue to watch and observe the fake Trump move around and see what he does, see how long that people are willing to put up with this fake Trump before they sort of snap out of it and realize, what are we doing? Why are we allowing some fake person to run this country? We don't even know who's running it anymore. And when are we going to remove all the Democrats and all these Republican criminals as well, instead of just watching them retire and never get punished? When is somebody going to be held to account? These and other answers we are awaiting the answers to, friends. So I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space, using the I am attribution if you still want to and choose to simply say I am and something positive about yourself. I hope you're doing well. I'll continue to try to do as many more shows as I can, but my personal life is becoming more and more complicated, and I don't know how much time I really want to invest anymore in bringing forth information and not having the videos get watched by a large amount of people. It doesn't make sense for me to do them anymore. So I'm going to probably be winding down as we go forward, but I'd like to get to the end of the story, so we'll see what happens through Christmas and into the new year and see where we are by the end of January, I guess, in February, see where we stand. So I hope you're well. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you celebrate with your family, and if not, then just simply try to think about some things you are thankful for and send good and positive vibes out into the universe right now, because we need that, right? We need to send love out there, send good vibes out, and send just peace out there, and hopefully we can move forward into a higher density together, and better days are soon to come. So friends, I hope you're well. This is your friend in New York, Ash, and PNP News, signing off for now.